and then if you have time, so about love.
You'll read the Russian, then I'll read the English.
Yeah,
Russian.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi everyone, dear friends. Hello. It's wonderful to see you back, and it's a sheer delight to see Elena Kostyuchenko actually back at Hunter for the second time since 2018. We just figured out, which was the first time she ever read and spoke here, and I was not here during that event. So it's an immense honor, of course, to introduce Elena Kostyuchenko, who most of you don't need this introduction, but let me just say that Elena was born in Yaroslavl. She began working as a journalist when she was only 14 years old. She spent 17 years reporting for Novaya Gazeta, Russia's last, hopefully not the last, but so far it is, major independent newspaper until it was shut down in spring 2022. Partly that had to do with Elena's reporting from Ukraine during the first days and months of the Russian invasion. Today, this event is really a book event. We are all very fortunate to have this book in English, which came out parallelly. In fact, as we just also found out, the first translation was into Italian, and the English translation by Random House, Penguin Random House, and the Russian original published by Medusa, they are only 2 weeks old so far. So we will start with the reading. Elena will read from the original book published by Medusa. Next to Elena is Kit Mashinsky, a volunteer at Tamizdat Project and art history major at Hunter College. This event, as many of those starting this year in this series, are co-sponsored, co-hosted by Tamizdat Project, which is a project for the study of banned books from the former Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc, which might introduce some poignancy to the discussion of the history of this book, where it was published and how it was created later on. So we will then open to the discussion for your questions, and let's welcome Elena to Hunter. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and so excited you all came. And I'm really looking forward to our conversation. But at first, Hunter asked me to read something from my book. And so I will read in Russian and Kit will read in English. And so it's like from chapter 12. So I believe I may just start. Объявление на металлическом шкафу. В связи с участившимися побегами клиентов, санитарам смен сопровождать санитарок на прачку в утренние часы. Клиентов без надзора из отделения не выпускать. Нарушения отражаются в зарплате. Администрация.
An announcement tacked up on a metal cupboard. Attention! Due to the increased incidence of client escape attempts, male orderlies are to accompany female orderlies to the laundry during the morning shift. Clients are not allowed out of their wards unaccompanied. Infractions will result in docked pay. The management.
Вы спросите. Мальчик с гигантской фиолетовой гемангиомой на лице пишет большими печатными буквами на листке. Переведите меня, Христа ради, в другой интернат, иначе я вас замучаю. Это 100%. Вы мне сломали жизнь. Вы спросите, сломали? Конечно, сломали. Я вас за это презираю, запомните. Здесь глупые люди. Я хочу быть свободным и независимым. Здесь работают моральные уроды. Мне все надоело в этом дурдоме. Его способность писать на листке считается забавной. Его сосед по комнате может читать вслух Евгения Онегина, правда не понимаю смысла. В их комнату приводят комиссии, чтобы показать талантливых ребят.
You ask. A boy whose face is disfigured by a giant purple hemangioma is writing in big block letters. For Christ's sake, move me to a different internat, or I will destroy you. 100% for sure. You wrecked my life. Wrecked, you ask? Of course you wrecked it. I despise you for all that forever. The people here are all stupid. I want to be free and independent. The people who work here are moral degenerates. I hate this madhouse and everything in it. The boy's ability to write is considered amusing. His roommate can read from Eugene Onegin, but he can't understand it. The room is included on every tour of inspection to show off the talented youths.
Тёма. Это единственное отделение, которое не открывает общий ключ. Его можно открыть только изнутри. Отделение 3А пахнет мочой. Нам объясняют, что здесь самые тяжелые клиенты. Бегунки, агрессивные, возбужденные. Они не ходят в столовую, но некоторым позволено выходить на прогулку. Нам говорят не поворачиваться никому спиной. Я иду с Катей Таранченко, директором «Перспектив», волонтерской организации, работающей с интернатами. Железная дверь, первая из многих. 2 дужки соединяет незащелкнутый замок. На двери маленькое пластиковое окошко. Катя заглядывает в окошко, снимает замок и заходит внутрь. Волна затхлой вони сбивает с ног. Посередине комнаты стоит абсолютно голый парень. Худой, стриженный почти наголо, с синяками от уколов на попе. Он смотрит сквозь нас, но я почему-то не могу рассмотреть его лица. Изо рта стекает ниточка слюны. Кроме парня, в комнате 2 кровати, одна с матрасом. В углу ведро. Парень подходит к ведру, мочится и снова встает в середине комнаты. Он вытирает пах рукой, проводит рукой по волосам. Медсестра вполголоса рассказывает. Артем Ша, тяжелый, жил с соседом, но сосед в больнице, живет один. Он все рвет и ест. Съел подоконник, смотрите. Угол окна расковырен. Как часто он выходит отсюда, говорит Катя. Артем не гуляет, подумав, отмечает медсестра. Где его одежда? Сейчас, говорит медсестра и исчезает. Артем раскачивается, мажет взглядом по Кате, смотрит вверх. Подходит к кровати, поднимает матрас, достает трусы и носки. Спасибо тебе, Тёма. А что, если ты оденешься? Спрашивает Катя. Тёма одевается. Я, наконец, могу рассмотреть его лицо. У него лицо волчонка из мультика. Бледный, карие глубокие глаза, оттопыренные уши. Кажется, что ему 15 лет. Возвращается медсестра, приносит штаны и майку. Мы отбираем, потому что он все рвет. Даже просто не рвет. А простыни – это госимущество. Мы хотим с Тёмой погулять, говорит Катя. Когда у вас прогулка? Это только с разрешения врача. Я позвоню. Она звонит и дает трубку Кате. Я слышу. Грубо дефектный. Он находится в наблюдательной палате. Не эндогенная, экзогенная. Слабоумие врожденное. Бывают периоды длительных ремиссий. Вот так вот, к сожалению. Врач отказывает. Катя возвращает трубку медсестре. Тогда мы походим по отделению. Тёма, у тебя есть обувь? Тёма забирается под кровать и достает сланцы. Обувается. Мы выходим. Тёма идет к двери в отделение. Дергает за ручку. Говорит. «И». Да, говорит Катя. К сожалению. Мы проходим мимо других камер. Там люди, люди, люди. Выходим к столам. Здесь едят. Дальше комнаты. Режим посвободней. Те, кто живет без запора. Нас видят комиссию, и парень говорит, что у него выкинули пластиковые ложки. Грязные, говорит медсестра. Чистые были. Чем я буду чай мешать? Пальцем? Позже мне объяснят, что в прозрачном контейнере для личных вещей на подоконнике может быть только расческа, платочки, зубная щетка, паста и туалетная бумага. Все остальное лишнее и выкидывается. Но они постоянно пытаются что-то притащить, сохранить. То маску использованную, то бумажку, то листик с прогулки. Такие уж они. Тёма идет быстро, большими шагами, и доходит до двери балкона. У Кати появляется идея. Но вначале надо увести Тёму в комнату и запереть за ним дверь. Тёма идет следом за нами, снимает и прячет носки, ложится на кровать, отворачивается к стене. Катя молча выходит, и мне приходится самой продевать замок в дужке двери. На завтра мы идем к Семикрылому, лечащему врачу Тёмы. Семикрылым его зовут за приговорку. У вас одно отделение, а у меня 7 крыльев. На психиатра приходится по 100 пациентов, но во время пандемии все 400. Выясняется, что Семикрылый работает неделю, Тёму совсем не знает. Зачитывает из карты. Поступил в ПНИ из детского дома-интерната. Мать была лишена родительских прав, отец умер. В возрасте 1,5 лет упал с коляски. С 3 лет изменилось поведение. Стал от всех прятаться за кресло, под одеяло, бегал по кругу, непрерывно смотрел рекламу по телевизору. Стал меньше говорить, а затем совсем перестал. Выдавливал содержимое всех тюбиков, перегрыз все провода. Во время занятий бегал по классу, рвал одежду на себе, ел цветы, тетради, кричал, кусался. Нам удается выпросить разрешение вывести Тему на балкон. Врач раздражен. Он хочет спросить, зачем нам это, несколько раз начинает, а вот вы, но не спрашивает. Тёма встречает нас одетым. «Здравствуй. Ты молодец, Тёма, что оделся. Я рада тебя видеть», — говорит Катя. Мы идем к балконной двери. Катя натягивает на Тёму куртку, и Тёма помогает, вдевая руки в рукава. Катя дает ему шапку, и он натягивает ее на лоб, почти закрывая глаза. Мы выходим на балкон. Солнце, многоэтажки, деревья касаются неба. Оглушительно пахнет талой водой. Тёма встает у решетки и дышит. Оборачивается и смотрит на нас. Впервые смотрит. «Хочешь, я включу музыку?» — говорит Катя. «Ты как к музыке, Тём?» Она включает зеленую карету, колыбельную про то, как приходит весна. Тёма садится на лавочку, а затем ложится, потянув колени к груди. Он смотрит в небо сквозь решетку, дышит ртом. На завтра мы идем к Семикрылому снова. Мы говорим, что Тёма себя очень хорошо ведет, и можно попробовать впускать его на улицу. Что мы будем рядом, и санитар будет рядом, и двор все равно зарешетчен. Мы говорим много аргументов, но Семикрылый внезапно соглашается. Под вашу ответственность. Я вам сказал, что я думаю. Тёма одет и ждет нас. Он тоже взволнован. Катя говорит, мы на улицу собираемся гулять. На улицу, вниз, там, где земля. Сейчас пойдем. Но сначала съешь конфеты, чтобы побольше сил. И протягивай Тёме конфеты. Санитарка приносит одежду прямо в камеру и качает головой. «А можно тут проветрить, пока нас не будет?» — говорит Катя. «Да, сейчас». Санитарка достает ключ и открывает окно. Катя хочет одеть Тёму, но Тёма уже одевается сам. Натягивает штаны поверх пижамы, залезает в свитер. Катя показывает ему, как застегнуть молнию на куртке, и Тёма вспоминает, как застегивать молнию. У него тонкие длинные пальцы. Мы выходим в коридор. В коридоре полно мужиков в шапках. Они похожи на троллей. Большие, неловкие, не страшные. Когда я перестала их бояться? Почему? Санитар открывает дверь ключом, и толпа спускается по лестнице. Мы идем последними. Тёма неуверенно переступает со ступеньки на ступеньку, но спускается быстро, очень быстро. Дверь открывается. Перед нами замкнутый двор, 124 шага. Солнце. Последний снег. Косолапый Саша задирает голову на окно 2-го этажа. Там живет Яна, Сашина любовь. «Конфет? Чего хочешь, зай?» — кричит Саша. «Я пошла купаться», — говорит Яна, но не уходит. «Давай, моя». «Я пошла топиться», — говорит Яна и не уходит. Саша смотрит на нее и смеется. «Утоплюсь, а я утоплюсь». «Иди, иди, иди», — кричат мужики. Они задирают голову в одинаковых черных шапках, похожих на гномья. «Ты куда с бычком пошел?» Ты, гаркает санитар. Тёма обходит двор, обходит еще раз. У него лицо глубоко разочарованного человека. Он натягивает шапку поглубже на глаза, шагает все шире. Останавливается, оборачивается Катя. «И», — говорит Тёма, — «и». «Я понимаю тебя. Зато смотри», — говорит Катя и подводит его к решетке. Там за решеткой скалами высятся серые многоэтажки, розовые на свету. Они стоят вдвоем. Потом Тёма берет Катю за руку и ведет обратно к двери. Они поднимаются по лестнице. Дверь в отделение уже закрыта, но у нас есть свой ключ. Тёма заходит в отделение, идет в свою камеру, раздевается и укутывается с ног до головы. Мы сидим рядом, потом выходим. На следующий день Тёма ждет нас, стоя под самой дверью камеры. Он выглядывает в пластиковое окошко. Он одет. Открывшая нам медсестра говорит Кате: «Вы, наверное, гипнозом владеете или чем-то таким. С тех пор, как вы к нему ходите, он ничего не рвет, не ест, что нельзя. Удивительно, как это у вас получается. Это же дар». Катя на лицо перекашивает. Я пугаюсь. Но Катя ничего не говорит, просто молча заходит в камеру. Открывает своим ключом окно, и в просранную духоту врывается весенний ветер. Катя оборачивается. Ее лицо уже спокойно. «Здравствуй, Тёма. Я так рада тебя видеть. Ты рад? Ты готов? Давай попробуем еще раз погулять». Тёма подходит к Кате, заглядывает ей в лицо, протягивает руку. «Да, я принесла», — говорит Катя. «Это сникерс. Ты ел сникерс? Это когда с орешками». Тёма выходит на улицу и сходит с тропинки, проходит по голой земле. Последний снег рассыпается кусочками. Тёма садится на лавку. «Смотри, Тёма, какое там солнце горячее-пригорячее», — говорит Катя. Тёма щурится на солнце из-под шапки, сглатывает. Я уже давно не видела слюну у него изо рта. Идет в беседку. Мужики двигаются, и Тёма садится рядом. Катя говорит: «Можно я включу музыку?» Мужики кивают. Катя включает кардиограмму Гребенщикова. Что-то соловьи стали петь слишком громко. Новые слова появляются из немоты. Такое впечатление, будто кто-то завладел моим сердцем. Иногда мне кажется, что это ты. Губы забыли, как сложиться в улыбку. Лицо стушевалось, остались только черты. Вдруг что-то хорошее стало происходить с моим сердцем. Ты знаешь, мне кажется, что это ты. Мне кажется, что это ты, поет Катя Тёме. И Тёма улыбается. Сначала неуверенно, потом широко. «Так приятно смотреть, как ты улыбаешься», — говорит Катя. Они улыбаются вдвоем. Солнце плоско освещает летящий, кружащийся мир. На следующий день Катя уезжает из города.
Toma. This is the only ward that the master key doesn't open. It can only be opened from the inside. Staff have to be let in and out. Ward 3A reeks of urine. We're told that these are the most difficult clients. The runners, the aggressive ones, the agitated. They don't eat in the cafeteria, but some of them are allowed out on walks. We're advised not to turn our backs to anyone. I'm with Katya Taranchenko, the head of Horizons, a volunteer organization working with internats. We approach a steel door, the first of many. A padlock hangs from the latch, open but threaded through the loops. The door has a small plastic window. Katya peers in. She unhooks the padlock and enters. The stench is overwhelming. A young man stands in the middle of the room, completely naked. He is thin, shaved almost bald, with bruises all over his butt from injections. He is looking through us, but strangely, is it not working? Sorry. I can't seem to make out his face. Oh yeah, it really wasn't working. A thread of drool hangs down from his lips. Along with the young man, the room has two beds, only one with a mattress. In the corner, a bucket. The young man goes to the bucket to piss, then returns to the center of the room. He wipes himself with one hand, then runs his hand through his hair. The nurse is quietly briefing us. Artyom S., a severe case, used to have a roommate, but he's been in the hospital, so he's alone. He rips everything up and eats it. He's been eating the windowsill. Look! The plaster has clearly been picked at. How often does he leave this room? Katya asks. Artyom doesn't go out on walks, the nurse tells us after a beat. Where are his clothes? Just a minute. The nurse scurries off. Artyom is rocking in place. He glances at Katya, then looks up. He goes to the cot, lifts up the mattress, retrieves underwear and socks. Thanks, Tyoma. Do you feel like getting dressed? Katya asks him. Tyoma puts his clothes on, and I can finally make sense of his face. It's the face of a starved wolf cub from a cartoon. Pale, deep-set brown eyes, protruding ears. He looks around 15. The nurse is back with pants and a t-shirt. We take them away because he tears everything up, even the bed sheets. Those are government property, you know. We'd like to take Tyoma out, Katya tells her. When is the scheduled walk for this ward? Only with the doctor's permission. I'll call him. She dials and passes the receiver to Katya. I can make out he's acutely retarded, currently under close observation. It's not endogenous, it's exogenous? Congenital mental deficiency, with long periods of remission. So that's that, I'm afraid. The doctor is saying no. Katya hands back the phone. All right then, we'll have a walk around the ward. Tyoma, do you have any shoes? Tyoma reaches underneath the cot for some plastic slides, puts them on. We're out. Tyoma heads straight for the ward doors. He tugs at the handle. He makes a noise. Ugh. That's right, Katya tells him, unfortunately. We walk around, past many cells filled with people. So many people. We find a room with tables, the lunchroom. Further on, there are more people, but they're in dorm rooms, not cells, for those who are not under observation and can enjoy more freedom. They assume that we're here to check on conditions, and one young man complains that his own plastic cutlery has been thrown away. Because they were dirty, the nurse says. No, they were clean. What am I supposed to stir my tea with? My finger? Later I learned there's a prescribed list of personal items that may be kept in a special plastic box. These live on the windowsills. Comb, handkerchief, toothbrush, toothpaste, and toilet paper. Everything else is superfluous, and therefore confiscated and discarded. They're always trying to sneak things through, though, to hide away some trinket, a used mask, a leaf they found on a walk, stuff like that. Just what they're like, I guess. Tyoma is walking fast. He gets to the balcony doors in a few big strides. Katya has an idea. But first we need to get Tyoma back to his cell and lock the door. Tyoma follows us meekly. He removes his socks and hides them under the mattress, then lies down on the cot and turns to the wall. Katya stalks off without a word, leaving me to put the padlock back on the door. The next day we go to see Seven Wings, the doctor in charge of Tyoma's treatment. They call him Seven Wings because of his catchphrase. You may be in charge of a facility ward, but I've got 7 whole wings. Each psychiatrist is usually responsible for 100 patients, but because of the pandemic, they have had to take charge of 400. It turns out that 7 Wings started exactly 1 week ago. He doesn't know Tyoma at all. He reads out Tyoma's medical record. Transferred from state orphanage to PNI. Mother stripped of parental rights, father deceased. Fell out of stroller aged 18 months. Age 3, displayed a marked change in behavior. Hiding behind furniture and under covers, running in circles, obsessively watching TV commercials. Started talking less, then stopped entirely. Squeezed out the contents of every tube, chewed up every wire in the house. Ran around during class time, ripping his clothes, ate flowers, notebooks. Screaming, biting. We plead for permission to take Tyoma out onto the balcony. The doctor is irritated. He wants to know why we're doing all this, attempts to ask several times, but stops short. Tyoma is waiting for us, fully dressed. Hello, good job getting dressed, Tyoma. I'm so happy to see you, says Katya. We go to the balcony door. Katya pulls Tyoma's coat on. He's helping putting his arms into the sleeves. Katya hands him a hat, and he pulls it down almost over his eyes. We walk out. Sunshine, high rises, trees touching the sky. An overpowering smell of meltwater. Tyoma presses his face to the iron bars and breathes it all in. He turns back to look at us, really look at us for the first time. Do you want me to turn some music on? Katya asks. Katya says, You like music, Tyoma? She plays The Green Coach, a lullaby about the coming of spring on her phone. Tyoma sits down on a bench, then lies down and curls up, arms tight across his knees. He is looking at the sky through the bars, breathing it in through his open mouth. The next day we go back to see Seven Wings, to tell him that Tyoma behaved very well, and they should try letting him go outside. We'd be right there with him, and the mail orderly would be there too, and the garden is gated and barred anyway. We have more arguments to present, but Seven Wings unexpectedly says yes. But you'll be personally responsible. I've told you what I think about all this. Tyoma is dressed and waiting for us. He's as nervous as we are. We're going outside, Katya tells him, for a walk outside, down there where the street is. We'll go in a minute, but have some candy first, so you're strong enough. She hands Tyoma several chocolates. An orderly brings some clothes to the cell. She's shaking her head. What possible to air out the room while we're gone? Katya asks. Yes, just a minute. She opens the window with a special key. Katya turns to get Toma dressed, but he's already doing it himself. He's pulled the trousers on over his pajama bottoms and is working his way into the sweater. Katya shows him how to do the coat zipper, and Toma remembers that he already knows how. He has long, slender fingers. We emerge into the hallway and encounter a crowd of men in hats. They look like trolls. Big, clumsy, completely unthreatening. When did I stop being afraid of them? Why? The orderly unlocks the door, and everyone proceeds down the stairs. We bring up the rear. Toma is unsteady on the stairs, but he's going down fast, very fast. The outer door swings open. We face the 124-step walled courtyard. Sunshine, the last of the snow. Another patient, pigeon-toed Sasha, squints up at the second floor. Yana, his love, lives up there. She's in the window and he shouts to her, "You want some candy? What do you want, bunny?" "I'm off to have a wash," Yana says, but she doesn't go. "Go on, then." "I'm off to drown myself," Yana says, and she doesn't go. Sasha looks up at her. He's laughing. "I'll drown myself. See if I won't." Go on, go, go, go," the men shout up at her. Their raised faces are brimmed by identical black hats, pointy like gnomes' caps. "Hey, you, where are you going with that cigarette butt?" the orderly barks. Toma circles around the yard, and again. He looks deeply disappointed. He pulls his hat farther down, almost over his eyes. His stride keeps getting longer. He stops, turns to Katya. "Ugh," he says. "Ugh, ugh, 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 ugh." "I know, but here, look at this." Katya takes him up to the fence. Beyond, the gray high-rises are like cliffs, almost pink in this light. They stand together, looking. Then Toma takes Katya by the hand and leads her back to the door. They walk up the stairs. The ward door is locked again, but we have our own key. Toma walks into the ward, back to his own cell. He gets undressed and gets into bed. He pulls his blanket up all the way over his head. We sit with him for a while, and then we leave. The next day, Toma is waiting for us right at the door to his cell. He watches for us from his plastic window. He is dressed. The nurse who opens up for us tells Katya, "You must be a hypnotist or something. Since you started coming, he hasn't ripped anything up or chewed anything he's not supposed to. It's incredible. You have a gift." Katya's face contorts. It scares me, but she doesn't say a word. She just goes inside. She unlocks the window and flings it open. A spring breeze cuts through the cloying stench of piss. Katya turns back to us, already composed again. "Hello, Toma. I'm so happy to see you. Are you happy too? Are you ready? Let's try to go on another walk." Toma comes close, looks her full in the face, opens his palm questioningly. "Yes, I brought you some," Katya assures him. "This is a Snickers. Have you had Snickers before? It has nuts in it." Outside, Toma goes off the path and steps onto bare earth. The last of the snow is dry and crumbly. Toma sits down on a bench. "Look, Toma, see how hot the sun is," Katya says. Toma squints at the sun from under the brim of his hat and swallows hard. I haven't seen him drool for days. He goes up to the gazebo and the men make room for him. He sits down next to them. Katya asks if she can put on some music. The men nod. Katya puts on Cartogram by Boris Grebenshchikov. The nightingales are singing too loud these days. New words evanesce from the blue. It seems like someone has got hold of my heart. Sometimes I think it might be you. My lips have forgotten how to form smiles. My features grown hazy, it's true. But something good's happening to my heart. You know what? I think that it's you. "I think that it's you," Katya sings to Toma, and he smiles. Hesitatingly at first, then for real. "It's so nice to see you smiling," Katya tells him. They are both smiling. The sun casts shallow light across the spinning, floating world. The next day, Katya leaves town.
Thank you so much.
Oh, sorry.
I want me to save my speech mics.
Does it work?
Probably works. I just wasn't.
It's like the weirdest feeling because it's like the first time I'm reading from my book, and wow.
Thank you again. And I forgot, of course, to mention that the English translation is by Bela Shayevich and Ilona Yashvin-Shavasa. And I also confess that I read the English book first. This is the first time I see the original published by Medusa. And this was just one of the chapters. So maybe before I ask somewhat more general questions, could I ask you why you chose internat for today's readings. How does it stand out to you between the other chapters that you included in this book?
Thank you so much for the question. I chose internet because I believe it's the most important text I ever wrote. It's like a reportage from concentration camp. In Russia, we have state-funded, state-ruled concentration camps for people with neurological and psychiatric diagnosis. That's called psychoneurological internats, or PNI. And recently, it's like 177,000 people, 21,000 of them are kids, are living in these facilities. They cannot leave this place. They live there until they die. We have no human rights. Any sign of just not be pleased with all happening, they can get as a response, like they can be forcibly medicated, and they often are forcibly medicated with medications we don't even know what the names of. And women are being sterilized there as cats, and people cannot define anything about their own life, like the length of their hair or what they're gonna eat or how long they're gonna sleep. Basically nothing they can define themselves. So I was lucky to live in such kind of place for 2 weeks, and some of my observation you just heard. And I believe it's the whole story, the whole reporting was a turning point for me. Then I cannot deny anymore that we have fascism in Russia, and we will have to deal with it. And I did this reporting just half a year, no, actually a year before the war broke out. So yeah, it's how it looked before. So as you can see, not, and for me it's a very important point that fascism didn't just appeared in Russia in 24th of February of 2022. It started quite before that, and it started till the point, it developed till the point that we had like, and still have concentration camp system in Russia.
Thank you. Obviously, no book, especially today, not, I'm afraid to say, probably even yours, can compete with the popularity of its separate chapters first published in Novaya Gazeta, which were read, of course, by millions and millions. So I want to ask when, why, and how, perhaps, did the idea of putting it together into a book, which does not only have the chapters previously published in Russia in the newspaper, but also Elena's introductions, or should I say memoirs of sorts, preceding each of them. Could you speak a little bit more just about this format, the genesis of it?
Yes, totally, thank you. Well, first time I started thinking about that I have to write this book was 2015. I was reporting from Donbas war, from the war on the southeast Ukraine, and Russia back then denied that its participants in this war. It's called like it's a civilian war in Ukraine. But I found some proofs that Russian army, actually I was able to prove it, that Russian army is actually participating in that conflict. And then I found it out. I started wondering, like, if like our people are dying in Donbas, so where are their relatives, like families, wives, sisters, mothers? Because I've heard from my colleagues who worked on in 2 Chechen wars, that back then, like, families were super active. They approached like conscription points and went to Chechnya themselves, trying to find their beloved ones to make an exchange with Chechen fighters, and so on, so on. And I started to look for the families. It wasn't easy because this war was secret, but I found some, and some of them refused to talk to me, not because they got scared, but because they said, we see no point in talking to you. But one woman agreed, and I went to her place. She lived in the south of Russia, in like small village. And when I met her, I thought she's much older than me, because like her hair was totally gray, but it appeared we are the same age. So she said that she had a brother, the younger brother she loved the most, and they were so close that, for example, he was the first one who knew that she has like periods, and like they lived like in the same village. They took care of kids of each other, so they were like a very good family. But for the man of this village, like there is no job. Instead of like you can go to the north to work on some oil factories to produce some oil, or you can go enlist, and it's gonna be like another opportunity. So he went enlisted, and he was sent to Donbass, and he died there. And she said to me like how he was dying there and how he felt it. She felt it at first, and then she knew about it, and how his body was brought to her, and the people who were accompanying the body told her nothing about the way he died, and they also forbade her to open the coffin so she would be able to recognize her brother, and how many time and effort she spent after trying to understand why he died there and what did actually happen with him. And she approached like journalists, and these journalists came to the place, and they got beaten by the police. I mean, it's a whole different story, but she was trying, and then she got silent, and she kept silent. And I asked her why, and she said, you know, like I had only two loves in my life, and one is my younger brother, and I loved him the most, and I would do anything to make him alive again, but I can do nothing about it. He's dead. And another love is my homeland, my Russia. And if I blame Russia for killing my brother, I would lose this love too, and I'm going to be empty. And I don't want to be empty. I want to love my country. And this was the scariest thing I ever heard. And I realized that like it's some kind of fucked up story happening here. Like I do need to understand how it's possible that our love to our country turns us into monsters. But you know how it's happening then, like you doing reporting on daily basis, like you're always busy with some other terrible events happening, and there is no lack of terrible events in Russia. You're always busy. But then this war had happened, and then this full-scale invasion started. Like I went there to work, and for like next 5 weeks, I didn't think at all because I was in Ukraine and I was all about, you know, looking around and listening people and see what's happening and report about it in Russia. And then, like, I left Ukraine. I started to think, and first thought was like, like that. And then I just started to thinking how that possible that it's all happening. And then like I started thinking how it's all possible that it's all happening. And I didn't see it coming, though I was reporting on my country for 17 years. How didn't I see it's coming? And if I saw it's coming, how didn't I recognize it? And then I realized that love, what gave me strength for all many years to keep going, to report on my country, to look precisely without turning away. It's also gave me a lot of hope, and this hope blinded me. And I realized that now it's time to write the book because I cannot really delay it anymore. I need to write it down. And as Yasha said, like, then I realized that it's going to be a story about how Russia descended into fascism. I realized that I cannot hide again behind my characters' backs, describe only their lives and their way to fascism and not describing my own life. And so I was like forced to look at myself and my life. And I didn't really like what I saw, but I wrote it down, and it's also here. And I hope that this book not going to be just useful for people who are willing to understand Russia, though like there are many people like that, and I'm amongst them, but also for people who want to know how early signs of fascism look like, how everyday life in the fascist country looks like. Because right now, I can surely tell that there is no country, there is no culture, there is no nation which is immune to fascism. It can grow in every soil. And right now, then, it's like we have global authoritarian turn. We need to be very cautious about what's happening with us and what can happen next. So I believe that if I can spoke with me a few years ago, like send myself letters into the past, I would say stay alarmed and be hysterical if you need to protect your country, if you need to fight for your country, because your country is very easy to lose. And it's basically what I want to pass to my readers. And I also hope that this book would create some kind of connections, like invisible connections between you and these people whose life is described in there. For example, these people from psychoneurological internet who never even called by name, but now you know about them, so we're not alone anymore. And you will know that they exist. I believe it's very important.
I was actually going to ask, among other things, about the title.
Mm-hmm.
Can I look at the?
Sure.
So in the original, the book is called "Моя любимая страна," but on the cover, somewhat euphemistically, it says "Моя, my, страна," country, which is not quite the same in the title of the English translation, which unequivocally now sounds like someone else's words almost after we heard your story about the woman you talked to back in 2015. So what other words other than любимая, I don't mean necessarily what euphemisms necessarily serve for, right? But what other words would you insert, do you see actually between моя and страна?
So for me, it's always моя любимая. Like my girlfriend says, it can be моя поганая. It's like the same, like my awful country. It's like the same number of letters. But what is good about this, it's like that it can be easily replaced. So like that. So yeah, magic, magic. So yeah, when I saw like Russian cover, I was so pissed off in the beginning because like my whole point was about to say that there's nothing shameful about loving your country. And if Putin says like if you love your country, you need to go and kill Ukrainians, or you need to be silent, or you need to obey, and it's not necessary to like follow his advice. If you love your country, you love doesn't demand death or silence or obedience. It demands life, actually, and very precise look on the thing you love, and lots of involvement and responsibility. So my point was that we should stop giving politicians the right to describe our feelings, and especially to tell us what our feelings demands us to do. And when I saw like this thing over Любимая, I was like, what is that? But then I thought that, I mean, it's true, like many people right now are struggling to say that they love Russia or they love whatever the country belong. And I believe like this one like opens up this question even before people open the book. And I like it. I mean, so yeah, and in English, yeah, it seems like it was challenging to translate "Моя любимая страна." So it's just "I love Russia," and my publishers used to say that it's not just I love Russia reporting from a lost country. So let it be it. But I'm very happy that right now this book is available in English because I believe we have a lot to talk about with English language readers and like their perception of what's happening in our country, in their country. And I'm very happy that like Hunter College created this space for our dialogue, and I'm very looking forward to your questions and your comments on it.
Thank you. Absolutely the last question that I cannot simply not ask on behalf of Tamizdat Project is about the story of the publication of this book. Yes, all of the chapters, right, of course, were not only written back in Russia when you were still living there, but they, more importantly, were also read by millions back home. And now the book is published in Russian in Latvia, in English in New York, in Italian in Italy, etc. So, is this new Tamizdat for you, and are you an emigre author now?
Yeah, I mean, completely. The thing is, when I just finished the book, the manuscript, I sent it to like lots of Russian publishing house in Russia, and they read it and they said they like it very much, and they're not going to publish it no matter what, because like in this book, like there are like 3 articles of criminal code, and nobody wants to go to jail because of this book. So one publishing house, they actually offered that they can publish it, but they're gonna replace some of bad lines, as we say, with some black dots. So you will just see just like black marks over the words. And I said yes in the beginning, like I thought like, okay, like it's gonna be visible, censorship gonna be visible, but then I'm like, I'm not doing that. It's awful. So yeah, so I refused. And then Medusa approached me and they said that I'm not the only one who are in this situation. Like there are many authors who can be published in Russia right now. For example, like Lenore Garalik, who just wrote a brilliant novel, Bobo, which can be published. She just basically puts it in the internet. So Medusa said they're gonna change it and they're gonna use like basically Russian old Soviet practices like Tamizdat and Samizdat. So like they're gonna publish it abroad in Russian, so people can buy the book and can have a physical book. But they also want to spread the copy, like electronic version of the book for free in Russia via their application. And the application is so good, it can avoid the state blockage. It has like 5 ways to avoid the state blockage. And one of them is actually about that this book gonna be available in Russia, even they partly shut down internet, which is great, I believe. So we're gonna do that, and we're gonna do it for free. So if you buy the book here, printed version, you like paying for the people in Russia who cannot get this book any other way. And also we agreed with Medusa that we won't be against if anybody in Russia decide to print it for themselves, like in any circulation, like just for themselves or for their family or for like their town, if they're brave enough to share it widely. So it's definitely Tamizdat and Samizdat thing. And it's a bit crazy that right now we have to use these practices, but I'm very thankful to people who already did it like in the past. So like we can use their experience and their models they created so many years ago, but now it's all became more actual, I believe.
Thank you again. All right, my part is over, and our tradition is that the first question usually goes to a student at Hunter or not at Hunter, if there is one. Yes, please.
Yes. Okay. So, what did this type of book look like? Because you said that the one thing that kept you realizing that the country is spiraling down into fascism, what did that look like? Like, did it look like what did that look like?
Thank you so much for this question, and I try to answer as honest as I can. So what was the first time when I thought that Russia has fascism? It was like 2013, then they just passed this law against LGBTQ people. And on this law, it was said that we are socially unequal to other Russians. And I mean, the whole word ordering is pretty straightforward fascist. Like then you divide your citizens into categories and says that one category is socially unequal to another category. Okay, well, it's like textbook fascism. But back then I was like, okay, it's just, some tactical decision of our government. They need some inner enemies to raise the militarization of the nation, which is also like a fascist move, but still. So I didn't react well. But when in 2022, I was able to live inside psychoneurological internat, and I cannot deny that it's a concentration camp, and we know how it happens. So, and then I had to make like a next move and to understand that if we have fascism in Russia, it will end up with war, and war is going to be big because fascism is like extensive ideology. It's always about spreading, getting new territories, getting like new human lives. And I saw it like in like school textbooks, but somehow I thought that I felt it that like if this is my country, nothing really bad can happen. We have like, this sounds like super irrational, but we also have some semi-rational ideas, like theory of small activities. It's a big deal. It was the big deal in Russia before the war. It's like people were doing, weren't felt that they able to fight with, I don't know, with the regime, but they felt that they can do some small things like building independent theater in Moscow, or volunteering inside psychoneurological internats, or building nice bookstore with independent books. And it's going to be somehow enough because like your work, like you create this shiny rainbow sphere, which is getting bigger and bigger. And at some point, all these, spheres would, just join, and new Russia would appear, and Putin won't be the place for that. But it didn't really work on the day of full-scale invasion. It's all just disappeared, all these rainbow spheres we were building. And for me it was also very painful to realize that one of these rainbow spheres was Novaya Gazeta, which I was devoted for so many years. And somehow I have like another explanation. It's also not very pretty one. Because like then you're like independent investigative journalist in Russia, your life is tough, and to be able to keep your work done takes lots of energy, and you can get this energy only believing that the thing you're doing is like the most important thing on the earth, and then you like have enough strength to proceed. And somehow me and other journalists has a feeling that if we describe well enough how fascism is growing inside Russia, it's going to be like enough to overcome fascism, which wasn't the thing, as you know. No, writing about fascism is not enough. It doesn't really help. Somehow we felt that I felt, okay, I'm going to say it just for myself because I know my thoughts. Somehow I felt that, I mean, did I understand that we have fascism? I did. Did I understand that it's not going to be overcome by articles in newspaper? Yeah, I did too. Did I understand that like peaceful street protest won't really help against fascism? Yeah, I did understand that too. But did I do something else to change the situation? No, I actually did not because I followed this nice idea, which is very popular here too. I believe that journalists, in the matter of preserving their objectivity, shouldn't really get involved into things. They shouldn't get political. And so basically what I was doing for 17 years is just describing like how my country was following into the darkness. And I believe there are like two things what actually made it possible. First is the hope I mentioned, and second is basically unwilling to change my, I don't know, lifestyle because like I love being a journalist and I thought that there are other people who don't do this kind of work. They can fight for the country the way I suppose they should. It all sounds quite ugly because it is, but I try to be honest here.
Yes. Yes.
And the second question is unfortunately not about the book, it's about two interviews that you had. And both of them you said, who could love 90s in Russia? Only a group of Moscow type journalists. And I just, don't you think it's kind of like populistic talk that a lot of like people in Russia use to say that, I mean, yeah, but now it's really better than it was in 90s. And we can see now what's going on. Not a big part of the population is poor. We don't have no freedom of work that we had before the 2000. So kind of, I mean,
Thank you so much for both questions. So the first one about fighting for my country, when I said, I mean, we need to be sure that regime going to be changed, that we will have like real president elections, and not just that, but also legislation system should be changed, and we have to establish independent court and independent media and all this stuff. But first of all, the criminal war in Ukraine should be over as soon as possible, and murders of civilians and Ukrainian soldiers who also didn't attack Russia. Yeah, it should be stopped. So it's what I mean when I say that we should fight for our country, but like, well, now it's like the hardest part, how are we going to do that? And I believe everyone has its own approach. I have mine, and I'm not really ready to talk about it in public, but I believe everyone has their own decisions these days. About 90s, I do understand that like people have different opinions on that. I have mine. So I believe that 90s actually, it's like the time where Putin came from, and I'm strongly against dividing like 90s as time of freedom and Putin as a time of oppression, because 90s, in my point of view, of course, wasn't time of freedom. It was time of poverty and crime and corruption, and actually it was time when people lost their beliefs into state politics and into independent media as well, because many media basically betrayed people, uh, describing the part of reality. They're like big money of big country what was divided between oligarchs and not describing the situation like people lived in. Then you compare 90s to the time with now, like what happens now. I mean, we can compare it, but in 90s, just to say, we had like my younger sister, she was like an orphan. We took her from orphanage. She basically died there from hunger. I mean, it's thought that like happened with my family. In my family, we not always had food to eat, and it wasn't like a rare thing. It was quite common in my region, and I of course understand that like its situation was very different from one region to another region. And because all this poverty, and because that Yeltsin basically changed the constitution to get more power as president, and he shot into the Russian parliament with tanks, for Christ's sake. So I believe we can't really. I don't like this time, and I believe that this trauma, what people got after Soviet Union was collapsed, is mostly 90s related trauma, not by the fact that Soviet Union crashed down, but actually the years what followed, and the terror of these years, and helped Putin to use this resentment in justifying of, making Russia great again by Soviet type of way. But again, I'm not a politician. My education is very good. So this is my feelings.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a difficult question to ask, but I'll try. Some of us may remember your debate with Lashak on Facebook at some point. You started with saying that fascism starts with scorning the underprivileged, especially people in internats. On the other hand, a lot of the Russians in the province support Putin, and very often they are the first ones to be drafted, to be sent to Ukraine to kill others. So many liberal Muscovites called those orcs, saying that, well, look, that's actually what a lot of them are doing, whether you wanted to go or whether you were forced to. And so it looks as though there's a contradiction. On one hand, we spoke about one group of people who are underprivileged. On the other hand, it goes back to the 90s. There's another group of people underprivileged who don't live in Petersburg or in Moscow, but they are also the ones used to carry out the murder in somebody else's country. And how do you see a way out of it by using the word, among other things, since that is your weapon as a journalist?
Well, I believe good approach would be not to call people orcs, like at least. Like then we divide, when we say like we are nice, wonderful elves who got bad luck to be born in Russia, and the rest of the population are orcs who like pointless and violent and go and kill because they love it. I mean, I believe it's not a good approach, and I believe it's also not very true. I mean, our country is extremely underreported, and that's true. We don't basically know how our country lives. And this, I believe, not just the responsibility of Putin, who started to try to control media like since his first president term, but it's also our responsibility as journalists and Vashak as well. So if somehow he feels that Russia is populated by orcs, it means like that he didn't really do his reporting well enough, and he doesn't know these people, or if he knows these people, he weren't able to explain him some things. What I don't know, he thinks that they would not divide orcs from elves. I mean, like it's all quite crazy. I mean, like the whole definition for me is quite crazy. So I believe you were absolutely right, and you said that the less privileged people from regions like national minorities are the first one who've been sent on this criminal war to fight. And I know that many people try to refuse to go there, and I was privileged to know some of these people who preferred go to jail instead of go and kill innocent Ukrainians. I mean, we should notice these people, and we should give them voices, and we should keep talking with people who are being sent to this war in a matter to explain them how we can avoid it and what we can do on the way there to avoid becoming a murderer. I mean, this conversation should go on. It's like what I think, and about picking right words, definitely not orcs, definitely not elves, and definitely not genetic slaves, and I forgot some other popular terms for Russians.
Yes.
Hi.
The idea of journalistic neutrality that influenced you so much during so long time. Do you still believe it? Do you still or do you believe it is possible in free countries, not in fascist countries, or even or when there is no war or what?
Well, no, I don't believe it anymore. I have my reasons. I believe we should realize that what we're doing, like when we write something in media, it's a political act, and we are political actors, and we should realize it and be honest with our readers about that. So for me, I can give you the shining example of my stupidity is like when I started to become a street LGBTQ activist. I went to the street protests because I'm lesbian. I had to get some rights I wanted. But every time I went out, I was totally destroyed with the thought that it really affects my profession, my journalism, the worst possible way, because like we are not supposed to get involved into things. So I decided that I need to separate like my LGBTQ activism from journalism. So I won't be able to, I shouldn't write about LGBTQ because I'm LGBTQ myself. But the straight people write about LGBTQ, they objective. So, I mean, the truth is we are not objective because we all have our unique perspective. And this unique perspective is our strength, not our flaw, and we should use it. And for me, as an open queer woman, I was able to go and talk into the community the way like straight people won't be able to do it. And same about me being female journalist. It's also helped me in so many other aspects. And the thing is that when we say that we should be objective, I mean, we should go on this way. We should try to be as objective as possible, but it often means that you need to tell your readers when and why you are not objective. And if you see the actual danger and you know that it's dangerous, I mean, we should write like I feel it's dangerous because this, and this. Not just playing I'm like nice, wonderful white bird flying over the battlefield and not touching the ground with my white nice wing because it's gonna get dodgy. I don't know. I mean, it's all quite challenging, but the thing is that we had this conversation, as you, Yulia, were like before war, like very often with my colleagues. And then the war had started, these conversations got almost over because everybody understood that like professional duty, what we are so obsessed to perform the best, doesn't replace like civil duty we all have. And if we need to act as civilians, not just as journalists, so let it be. And now I can see that many new journalistic projects like Служба поддержки and Holod, they got involved into the fate of the characters of people they are writing about. And I believe it's like the best way to proceed.
As a journalist from Russia, worked for a lot of years within topics which are hated by our government, and you've been physically attacked, I think, several times. And after your work from Ukraine for the past 2 years, you were said not to arrest but to kill from our government. Do you see yourself returning to live in Russia in any years after the Putin's regime ends?
Yeah, I do. I do actually. It's what gives me strength actually to keep going. I do want to go back to Russia and to become a part of this huge work we also do, like about understanding like who we are now and what have we done and how we can rebuild at least partly what we destroyed. Like we can't resurrect merged people, nobody can, but we can do something. And what can we do and how we're gonna live then and like what our future would look like. I believe it's like a lot of work and I probably won't see the end of this work, but I would desperately want to be a part of it. And I mean, it's so strange, like I haven't been in Russia since the first day of invasion because I went to report to Ukraine, but like I still see like Russia every day in my dreams. And I believe my brain just doesn't let it go. And I don't want to let it go. I mean, it's also like a very big part of me, and I want to be reunited with this part.
That's okay. You go first and then.
I feel like we do believe in miracles because if you look at the history of Russia, I mean, the upper 90s, you can look at whole 20th century and what's happening, and how many times was white all this, and how many times was destroyed. This is the fascism, whatever you want to call this, it's not new. Even though it was kind of big to it. So, as bringing so much pride and hope, saying I would like to go back. Sometimes feel that we took it, versus that incredible the other question, the first question, is that we've been through so much with the people who were holding on. I'm just grateful.
Thank you so much for both questions. So I don't believe in miracles. I mean, I do believe in miracles actually, but it's like a secret. I didn't tell you that. So I do believe in miracles. I don't know if miracle as big as Russia would be possible. I mean, it's quite a big one, right? But I do believe in hard work. So I don't think that Russia would have a future. Instead, we create one for that. So I believe it's like I cannot do it myself. Like we all should be part of it, and then we have chance. And it's gonna be like big, ungrateful work, and we probably won't see the success as our ancestors didn't see the success. But isn't that only about the success, or it's about that we're willing to put efforts and put our time and put our lives in a matter of land we love and people we love? Because when I say Russia, of course, I mean people united by one faith. And do we want to make this faith better? Yes, we do. Do we want to work for that? Yes, we do. Will we succeed? No, not necessary. But is that the most important thing? I mean, it is. Yeah, but still. I always thought that like journalism is ungrateful because like you write and nothing is changing. But when once I was writing a story about a man who was falsely accused in murder, and he was sentenced to 8.5 years in prison for murder he didn't commit, and I was able to prove he's innocent. And then it took around 2 years for me and lawyer who Novaya Gazeta provided to prove it in the court, and we did, and he got free. And the moment the court said that he's not guilty, because like after he spent 3 years in prison, and the lawyer who got a sentence on his hands, he started to photo it and send it to someone. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, it's my non-guilty verdict. And I'm like, yeah, sure, like you won. And he said, no, it's my only non-guilty verdict what I'm gonna have in my life. Because like in Russia, we have only 0.13 of 100, 13% of non-guilty verdicts. So every lawyer can have only one non-guilty verdict in the lifetime if you're lucky enough and you work hard enough. One in a lifetime. So I was so shocked with this quote, and I asked him like, why do you work as a lawyer? I mean, you go try to defend people and you never succeed. And he said, well, what is a success? I mean, yes, non-guilty verdict I got only once in my life, but there are quite a few times when I make sentence less, or then just I make these people feel that they are not alone, that they have somebody who's standing for them. Despite of like they're gonna be sent in prison, they knew that there was someone who's standing for them. So I believe then it goes about feelings what's right and wrong, and feelings what like our feelings, our hearts. It's not always about the results. So I desperately want the better future of Russia, and I do everything for that. And about how I'm coping, well, here's my fiance Yana. Yana, say hi to people. So she's the reason why I'm alive, basically. So thanks, Yana. Yeah, and I have a lot of support from my psychotherapist and from my mother and from my sister and from my friends and from you, because you came here to talk to me with me about the most important thing for me, like Russia, and you want to hear about my book what I wrote, and I desperately want you to read. And like it so keeps me going, I guess. And I do have issues like psychological mostly, because right now, because my health problems after the whole poisoning story, like I mean, I cannot really go back to the field yet. And it's really devastating for me, because I used to define myself through my work, and now I really cannot do that. And I don't really know who am I, where I'm living for, and all this existential shit. So, so I'm trying to just do what I can. And this book is very important for me. So thank you so much for an opportunity to share all these thoughts and feelings and stories and fears of these very different people who live in my country and who now going to be close to you because you read them, their words. I'm very thankful for that.
Thank you. I think, unfortunately, we have to wrap up on this note. Let's just once again thank Elena, and we can't wait for you to be back in this room or in a bigger room with the same book or with another book. Please do come back. We will be here and waiting. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.